Today we're discussing what are some of the best supplements that are actually worth the money and some of the ones that really aren't. Hi, my name is Milan. I share my lessons here on YouTube, and without further ado, let's begin. So, the first thing that I actually want to talk about here is that supplements aren't everything. Yes, I know you didn't click on this video for me to rant about the fact that supplements aren't really everything they're marketed to be. So I remember when I started lifting, I really thought the most important thing was how much supplements I was taking and generally what I was taking when it comes to supplements. Now, we're not talking about steroids here. We're talking about natural supplements that you can buy on the market. And so what I actually did, and I can't believe I did this, like this is peak cringe, peak, ignorance, whatever. What I did was, I'm just checking if I'm even recording with this. What I actually did was I wasted about $250 or $300 on supplements in the first few months of my lifting. So I bought everything: whey protein, BCAAs, EEAs, creatine, and so on and so on. And that's how I basically wasted the majority of my life savings up until that point. Of course, I didn't have the proper knowledge to actually know that supplements are really I would actually say supplements are about 10% of the entire result. So everything that isn't supplements, so this, let's imagine a pie chart. We have 10% here, which is the supplement area. And everything here, the majority of the circle, is your training, your diet, your sleep, recovery, etc., the things that actually matter. And so supplements are just the cherry on top of the cake. You shouldn't waste so much of your time researching what are the best supplements and so on, because this video is basically all that you need to know about supplements. Or this video is actually going to tell you everything that you need to know. So the first supplement that's actually worth the money, I'd honestly say, if you only had to take this one supplement, it's this: creatine, man. And specifically creatine monohydrate. I think it's actually been researched for about 150 years, or let's say 100 years at the very least. That's still a lot of research on anything, but this specific supplement that I'm talking about here, creatine, basically puts water inside of your muscle and gives you the illusion of having bigger muscles, and so you get more energy and so on and so on. I can talk about the technicalities here, like it puts water inside of your muscle cells, and so that technically generates more ATP, and so you become stronger and so on. And by the way, if you want to get private coaching, then message me on Instagram, first link in the description, and back to the video. But what I want to talk about here is the fact that creatine has so many benefits that if I just made a video on the benefits of creatine, that video would honestly last like half an hour. When I scroll Instagram, right, every single day I see a new creatine benefit. So creatine has been shown to increase muscle endurance, or creatine has been shown to increase IQ and brain activity in people over the age of 50. And so on and so on. So basically, creatine is probably the most safe supplement there is out there. How much should you take, or when should you take it? The majority of those questions are actually irrelevant, but I will answer the most important one. How much should you take? 5 grams, that's the recommended dose. And the loading phase thing is honestly a scam, because companies just want you to use their products faster so you could buy more. Like if every single one of us used 20 grams of creatine per day, the creatine supplement companies would be like, oh, finally money. When should you take it? That doesn't really matter. You can take it before or after your workouts. Just take it at the same time every single day. That's my recommendation, at least, since you won't miss a day. Even if you miss a day, it's not the end of the world, but it's still recommended for you to take creatine every single day for the rest of your life. And what about the side effects and so on? For example, people talk about DHT related side effects, or the fact that you lose your hair faster, or you may have kidney issues from creatine and so on. I will say this. When you take creatine, and let's say you're predisposed to lose your hair at 25, if you take creatine in this scenario, you're probably gonna lose hair at 23, 24, which is basically the same. So if you're predisposed to have kidney issues, if you're predisposed to lose hair, you're gonna have problems with creatine and so on. But when it comes to actual side effects like enlarging of the heart or acne and so on, that really hasn't been confirmed by science, and so creatine is technically safe. Now, the second one that we're going to be talking about is whey or protein powder, however you want to say it. I will say here that protein powder isn't as necessary as creatine. So creatine would actually be like S tier or S plus tier, something that every single guy who wants to seriously lift should take. But when it comes to whey, if you're eating enough protein every single day, you don't need to be using whey protein. Like if you eat, let's say, half a kilo of meat every single day, and so you have a relatively large protein intake, you don't need to be taking whey, man. But me myself, I wanted to be a smartass, and so I googled what is whey protein, I did the research and so on, and I was like, whey protein actually works. Now me myself, I actually ate a relatively low protein diet when I started lifting, and so whey was actually a good investment at that point. But after a while, I started eating healthy, I started eating more meat, and so whey wasn't really necessary in my case, but I still bought it with my own money, and that's how I ended up extremely broke after a while. So whey protein isn't really that necessary if you're eating enough meat, enough eggs, and generally enough protein sources for you to build the most amount of muscle. What is the best amount of protein for you to eat every single day? I'd say a gram per pound, or a gram of protein per pound of body mass. And now there's probably gonna be some guy who's into science-based lifting and be like, yeah man, but the most recent meta-analysis proved that 0.83 grams is actually the most effective, and so on. I will say to that, bro, you're literally overcomplicating it. Like, use this simple rule that's been shown to work for the past few decades. Like even Arnold used the 1 gram per pound of body weight rule for protein. And I believe in this point that we're in right now, or in this present moment, all the way up to like 2040, 2050, we're gonna have even more research on this, and eventually they'll come to the same conclusion that 1 gram per pound of body weight is actually the best, unless we find some great scientific discovery that using even more protein is better, but we're not gonna talk about that this video. And lastly, something that you can also use is caffeine. Now, what is your desired form of caffeine? That's up to you. So you can drink coffee, drink energy drinks, drink pre-workouts every single day. If you want to do that, that's up to you. Now, I will say, out of those three, coffee is actually the healthiest and probably the most pure when it comes to caffeine. Like, we can obviously say that drinking coffee is slightly better at the very least than drinking energy drinks, and probably a lot better than drinking pre-workout every single day. Now, when it comes to coffee, a lot of it is connected to genetic predisposition and your tolerance level, to be honest. Me, myself, I can drink 5 coffees every single day, zero problem. But you, a guy who has never drank coffee, or some guy who lives in the Tibet mountains, a guy who has never drank coffee as well, or his entire bloodline has never tasted caffeine or tasted coffee, yeah, he'd probably have an issue if he drank 5 coffees every single day. Like everything else, you have to do it with moderation. Now, all of the stuff that I didn't mention here, like EAAs, BCAAs, omega-3. Omega-3 is actually kind of useful, so I wouldn't put it into this category. Rather, multivitamins, multiminerals, and L-carnitine, etc., etc. Those things aren't really that useful, so they're not in this hypothetical tier list of mine. So creatine, whey, and caffeine. Those 3 supplements, I believe the majority of lifters who want to take lifting seriously, they should take those 3 supplements, but everything else is just an add-on, something that's not really essential, and something that you should try if you're deficient in those things. For example, people that are deficient in magnesium or vitamin D should take magnesium or vitamin D3. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to get private coaching, then click the first link in the description and message me on Instagram. You can watch this video right here, and I'd highly appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel here. And as always, see you at the top.